Today's guest, Jen Appel, is proof that purpose and creativity can share the same heartbeat. A filmmaker, author, and educator, she helps others believe in the possible, guiding people back to the noble and good within their own stories. Through her Somewhere I Read movement, she's sparking a national conversation about patriotism and decency and what the real American spirit looks like today. You know, every now and then someone comes along whose work reminds me what leadership looks like when it's rooted in decency. Not just vision or drive, but the courage to call us back to what's good. Jen Appel is one of those people. Whether she's directing documentaries, writing children's books, or coaching entrepreneurs, her mission stays the same, to inspire belief in what is possible. And now, through her Somewhere I Read movement, she's leading a national conversation about patriotism and inclusion, the kind that honors our differences while calling out the best in us. It is a healing for our nation and for each of us personally. I can't wait for you to meet her. Here's Jen Appel on One Voice Evolving. An evolution. It is an evolution in process. I started One Voice Evolving to reclaim joy in DEI in 2023. In the next year, with season 2, we had the election cycle, and it became clear that the personal had become political. And so I shifted just a little to say One Voice Evolving, Resilience Redefined. And then January happened this year, and all bets are off. And redefining it is not going to do it. We've got to reimagine this thing from the ground up because this word unprecedented, as overused as it is, means nobody knows what to expect or how to react in real time. And so far this year, everything I'm seeing that people who are in the DEI space, if they have one of the 400,000 who were already let go of in the first 6 months of this administration, they've tried everything. I've seen them massaging and changing the DEI words to see if that can keep their corporate clients from getting in trouble with their government contracts. That is not working. None of the things they tried to do to mitigate the pain has taken hold at all.
And may I ask what brought you into the DEI space just before we get started?
I'm a human resource professional, and I have done executive coaching and change management. I have an organizational development degree, late in life student, didn't get my degrees till my 40s and 50s. And I have worked with highly functioning addicts and alcoholics as a side and a coaching thing since 2010. The ones who don't want to go to HR because they don't want their boss to know, or they don't want the insurance trail, or they're about to get outed in some public setting, their church or somebody saw them at a game with a picture, an N-toward picture, and they want to catch it before the media does. And so those are the things, and I've worked with law enforcement and with clergy and business professionals over the years. So
Wow.
that was my little side gig when I retired early from HR. I thought I'd do that and women's retreats on how to transform the story of your life for women to reclaim their voice and, decide who they want to be when they grow up now that they've raised everybody else. And then the pandemic happened. And then I went to Louisville, Kentucky with Dr. Nikki Lanier. She did an event there specifically reaching out to white women to advance racial equity in our lifetime. And the fact that she was a woman of color, and she used to be the VP of the Federal Reserve in Kentucky, I think. And she had such a grace-filled heart toward people like me who don't know what we don't know, that I just had to be there. And I went, and I'm telling you that 4 days changed my life. And I started the podcast because I know me and I know my white bubble. I know how easy it is to say, oh, not my circus, not my monkeys, and go back to we four and no more. And I wanted to make sure I didn't do that because this is too important. And the podcast is how I started that. The first season, I took what I do in groups, but I did it on the podcast and it caught some traction. The second season, we did Resilience Redefined, and I found myself in a political learning curve because I'd never been political. I was apolitical, and oh, I'm a recovered Republican, by the way. So, all of that. And
Hmm.
then now I've done corporate consulting as people from my past have said, I want you to do here what we did in Washington State, where we turned a couple of places into best places to work within about a 2 to 3 year period. I got there, the morale was so bad. So we turned it around with what I call culture and communications. Turns out it's DEI work, but who knew? I didn't know what the word even meant.
Hmm.
And this year I got 100% fed up with the male misogyny in the C-suite. 100%. I don't care. I'm not proving myself again. I'm not mincing my words, and I don't give a shit if you're uncomfortable with the mirror I'm holding up for y'all.
Yeah, reality's
But oh
inconvenient.
my God. So that's my
Well,
so
we're
yeah,
going to try to
I,
recruit. We're going to try to recruit you after you tell me that. That's for sure.
well, good, because I'm recruitable.
Good.
I am working now with previous guests on my podcast. We've had 75 podcasts now, and with previous guests who are what I see and feel from my clientele and from my peers is this feminine rage rising,
Mm.
where we finally are getting in our bones that keeping quiet did not only does not keep us safe, but fuck that.
Yeah,
This
being
is
nice to the
costing
abuser.
more
That's an old story, you
than
know.
we can even do. So I'm deconstructing whiteness in real time over on Substack
There you
and
go.
everything that goes with it.
Yes,
And so
ma'am.
I want you to talk about whatever is on your heart or I mean, you have so many lanes, I couldn't even pick one. So I'll do the introduction when we're all done with this and I know where the thread is that we're going to follow.
Yeah, there are a few lanes, but they all kind of work together. First of all, congratulations, because that's one of the fronts of the war that I feel we're in, the cultural war
Yeah.
for defining our national identity.
Hmm.
And so thank you, because you're leading a really important charge. And I think that labels fall short. So whether it's feminism, liberal, Republican, they're just labels
Hmm.
for truth, reality, facts, fairness, all the promises that the founders put in their founding documents. But I do believe, and that is the entire thrust of the initiative that attracted me to you to interview, that we are still recovering from the inherent hypocrisy of our founders. So they penned one of the most noble visions for mankind while they were misogynist, racist, white, entitled men. And
Hmm.
so, how do you reconcile that very fact? And that is some beginning of a history. However, most great nations have a dicey history. And I don't really see us in some sort of crisis about America, being browned or brownifying or whatever these horrible terms are. And first of all, America was always brown, if you want to start talking in color codes.
Hmm.
It was the white settler that visited upon this land, and it was conquistadors, which was a horribly savage moment in history, et cetera, et cetera. And so, anyway, we did get to the American Revolution, and it was birthed from these very noble ideas that you could trace back to the Great Awakening, you can trace back to the Enlightenment. Hey, we're all created equal.
Yeah.
So, if God creates us all equally, loves us all equally,
Hmm.
the next thought is therefore we should govern ourselves. Divine right of kings is an absurdity. Well, that's a moment in time. For whatever reason, human consciousness up until then thought that was okay. That God was deeming a certain person and lineage to rule over others. What nonsense. But okay, we
Hmm.
bought it. So now we have America, the first great safe space, with these noble ideas, and we enslave people. And it's on blood-stained land.
Mhm.
How do you sing the great anthems and hymns? How do you speak of majesty, splendor, and glory with such hypocrisy? And I believe that's the work. I think that America has not done that work, and that's why we're where we are. I think that there was a scapegoat notion given to the white man, quote unquote, that it's the others. If you
Mhm.
just point at those other people, othering, the entire movement of justifying slavery, all of that complete malarkey and nonsense is still in the air.
Right.
And a lot of lazy, entitled baby boy brats want it back
Yeah.
because it means they aren't responsible, they don't have to work,
Mhm.
and it means they're entitled to a heck of a lot more than other people. Of
Right.
course, that, they have no right in ascertaining whether it's positions of power, wives,
Mhm.
you name it.
Mhm.
So anyway, I come from a split family. My mother and father had 5 kids each, then my father had 2 more. On my father's side, they were pretty cool people growing up, but they really got ensnarled by the materialism and the
Mhm.
capitalism and the greed that is promised to the white man.
Mhm.
And they happened to be Catholic as well. And they
Mhm.
got involved with this scene in Potomac, Maryland, that somehow conflates Catholicism and power.
Mhm.
Anyway, I didn't recognize them, and it was one of the saddest things in my life, really was. And then the New Yorkers, they were just completely intoxicated by Wall Street and country clubs and golf and the blue blood Americana promise and the J. Crew ad looking family, which I'm sure you know from dealing with alcoholics and drug addicts. You know, that scene looks very prim and proper, but it's anything but. It's mostly addiction and affairs.
Mhm.
So I was teaching The Great Gatsby at the time, and I was really listening to Fitzgerald warn us that this is not the American dream, folks. If you just go for the money and you forget love, you're in the Valley of Ashes.
Mhm.
And I said, wow, like what stole my siblings from me? These were cool people. Where did they go? It's like a Stepford wife phenomenon.
Mhm.
And I heard myself explaining it to someone and saying, well, they look like the American dream. They look like a J. Crew ad. And I went, whoa, that's a problem. Is that the American dream? And so I
Mhm.
started to research it. And the second you begin that journey, you're confronted with your work because you realize, wait a minute, the American dream, first of all, wasn't offered to everybody.
Right.
Second of all, it was totally perverted and twisted and hijacked by capitalism.
Mhm.
So you got to go back and say, what was it? And to me, it's very simple. It was the promise that everybody's got a shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the poetry of Langston Hughes and the speeches of Martin Luther King Jr., those are the voices we have to make
Mhm.
sure rise again.
Mhm.
And I started a life's work about 10 years ago, and I wanted to create a film, but it's actually blossomed into an entire movement and enterprise that gave voice to our ancestors so that the real America can speak
Oh.
and we can be a great nation for the first time. It's not make America great again. It's finally make America America. And that's what Martin Luther King Jr. said in his last speech is America, I'm only asking you to do and to be what you said you are on paper.
Right.
And that's our great invitation. That's what you've been called to. That's what I've been called to. That's what my team is answering.
Mhm.
That this, spiritual, enlightened idea that we are all equal
Yes.
somehow erupted on the earth and made its
Mhm.
home on the North American continent.
Mhm.
And it is up to each and every person to make sure that that invitation and promise is indeed true. And I am not going to let a bunch of, entitled criminal morons
Mhm.
squash one of the greatest ideas to ever hit the earth. So that's what I'm up to.
I love that. When I look at, so here's the great ideal, all the immigrants who came here before they decided to colonize, or maybe they decided before they got here because that's all they knew, who knows. But one of the things I know is that as I'm going through my deconstructing whiteness and my family tree, learning about the women who, my dad's side, we can trace all the way back to, 1600s, whatever it is. But my mother's side, the maternal line, it's like erased history. It's hidden history because 5 or 6 or 7 generations ago, they didn't even have their names. They were Mrs. So and so and so and so.
That's right.
And so there is my understanding in my body that all the lies I've believed, some of them I learned at my mother's knee, some of them were passed down for 2 or 3 or 12 generations. Some of that is just flat in my DNA because trauma changes your processor centers.
Yes, Dr. Christian Northrup, she said that there was a study done that when women have a girl baby, their first instinct is to say, I'm sorry, whether they realize it or not. And you'd have to research that, and it's something
Yeah.
I haven't really put the time into. But when I heard it in passing, it really struck me.
Hmm.
And when Adam's wife said, "Don't forget the ladies," when they were penning all of our documents, he said,
Hmm.
"Oh, your saucy little letter." You know, it was just so trivial. It was so funny. And our first national poet is a woman, Phyllis Wheatley, but she was enslaved. And so part of the film we're making, it follows a central narrative of a musician writing a new pop culture version anthem for the country that gives voice to all the people and how difficult that really is. But we're going to be editing in lost pieces of history because, as you just mentioned, there's an entire 50% or more missing.
At least,
At
at
least,
least.
at
And
least.
I have been interviewing historians. Now, I didn't give two shakes about history my entire life. What does that have to do with me?
Yes.
Until last season. And a woman who's a historian in Vermont and New Hampshire spoke in our little nowhere New Hampshire community about the hidden history of New Hampshire. For 100 years, no, there was no record of any slave owners or slaves in this land because we were that lily white right up until Portsmouth started uncovering their history. And then it started to roll. So now we're talking about that. Well, then
Mm,
she introduces me to somebody who was in Vietnam on the ground doing relief aid work during Tet Offensive and with the boat people afterwards. And she's now 84. And so she was a guest. And she pulled the thread through because my question started to be, where were the women? The women whose histories you don't know about, but I know darn good well if the governor of this place in Vermont that was a hub of the Underground Railroad, she was the one managing the household servants who were hiding the freedom seekers. And you can't tell me she didn't have an influence there.
mhm,
So how does this work? And I've followed it through, and I just had this conversation with some other white women that I know who are in the Rare Woman Collective who are trying to figure out what a path forward is. How can we
mhm,
make a difference? We've learned all we need to learn. It's time to flip the switch to action. What's
mm,
that going to look like? And I said the first thing is we white women talk too much,
mm,
talk too darn much, because even a recent one who's doing exodus work for women who are seeking safe reproductive care rights across borders from Texas and other states. She carries the same thread through that made these previous resistance successful, that women were central to, and that was that they really keep tight, close circles around their information and their movements.
mhm.
And they really don't know when they engage people in the field to do the next baby step move along the line. Those people in the field really don't know who is in charge. They know
Mhm.
the person who hands it to them and the person they hand it off to, but they don't know what's in it. They don't know anything. And
Mhm.
that's strategic survival.
Mhm.
And what gets women involved in it is when something happens to someone they love or know or are close to.
Right.
And that is what moves them. It's not the political, it's not the dogma, it's not the social media. It is when it's in my backyard.
When it
When
hits home.
my uncle gets gets
Right. And I wasn't political. I didn't care about history. It was when it hit home. And I had to say, wait a minute, what just stole my family?
Uh-huh.
And I then became an AP US history teacher. I became clearly a political commentator. I'm interested in it, but I'm actually trying to create a movement outside of politics through art and technology. So it's really about giving the microphone to the people, and then they'll decide who they want to vote for. But
Right.
politics and the politicians have gained too much gravity. I mean, the whole world is
Mhm.
spinning around them, and that's a bad idea.
Right.
They're auditioning for us. It's
Mhm.
we the
Mhm.
people that are in power.
Yeah.
It's all ass backwards right now. And to your point about, who are the women that shaped a country, who
Mhm.
birthed a nation? Well, who are the people of color? If you
Mhm.
look at our soldiers, if you look at the veterans, the people that won our wars,
Mhm.
this is more than a travesty. I see this as a national sin
Mhm.
that we are not honoring our veterans and people of color properly.
Mhm.
And all the language itself has to be changed. People of color, white, you're not translucent. I'm not white as ice.
Mhm. Yeah.
Caucasian is on HR forms. It's a made up thing. I mean, they find a
Mhm.
skull in the Caucasus Mountains. They're making all this mythology to justify slavery. I mean, that's in The Great Gatsby too. Like, it's all fiction.
Mhm.
The reality is there's one race anthropologically. So it's a cultural construct and a very real one that's lethal. So there's so many levels of malarkey, tomfoolery, nonsense, lies, propaganda, you name it. The problem right now is it's become so urgent because there were smart people that decided to become strategic and use it. And the resistance is bar swinging. They're just,
Mhm.
here, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. That is not going to work. You have to
Right.
get just as strategic,
Mhm.
and you use the truth as your sword.
Mhm.
And so that's what we're doing. We're going to use art and writing and technology to propagate the truth,
Mhm.
and the capital T truth, not subjective truth, not
Mhm.
point of view. I express my point of view on social media,
Mhm.
but in the enterprise, it's fact based.
Right. Right.
It's about selling reality
Mhm.
to puncture this psych op that we're in. This is psychological warfare against the American people that was
Yeah.
very deliberate.
Yeah.
And it's steeped in a tradition of hate and, white boys not wanting to work
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
wanting the world
Right. Right.
and other.
And when I hear about your project, what I that was the thread I drew was that it's hidden history. And we've seen just in the last year how history is being erased or misconstrued or retold as though it's true enough times that enough people it starts to gain traction and momentum. And
Mhm.
so now it's like, oh, now I know how New Hampshire got away with saying, oh no, we weren't any of that, and why Vermont is still one of the whitest states in the nation,
Yeah,
for
evil could only
contemporary
breed
color.
on lies.
Yeah.
It's just like no matter how dark a room is, if you turn on a light as small as a match,
Right.
it kills the darkness.
Yeah.
So no matter how big the lies are, if you bring the truth into the room, it ruins everything.
Mhm.
So they, quote unquote, those that want to grift a nation for their own pockets and stay out of prison,
Mhm.
they are highly invested in making sure no one knows the truth. So the museums have got to go, the education's got to go, media's got to go,
Mhm.
late night hosts have got to go, art's got to go, it's all got to go. And so
Mhm.
my job is to bring it all back. Sorry, fellas. Actually, the artists are just getting started. The
Oh.
media, we're putting it in the people's hands. We have the technology for citizen journalism. We're going
Mhm.
to invite Kim to mess you all up with the real American conversation. Like, no, actually, no. There's 340 million of us. The
Yeah.
answer is no. How about
Yeah.
that? How about
Yeah.
no?
I
And that's
like
our
that.
job right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And yours. And we are aligned.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. This is what I do all day.
Yeah. And so how does art, so talk to me about art. I had someone on recently who said hip hop will save America. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's a fun little ditty. But
Yeah.
we
I
see that
used to I
happening.
used to teach hip hop, and it was Hip
Yeah.
Hop America was the name of the class.
Oh, I
And
love
it was about the rap artist being the new Shakespeare. And there's a wonderful organization, Vocabulary, and
Mm-hmm.
they have some great raps about American history. And I'm also looking into Stevie Van Zandt's Teach Rock, where they
Mm-hmm.
use music to teach American history.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a fan of all the arts. I started with painting. I'm a writer, and music is the most powerful of all the arts. It bypasses the brain. It
Yeah.
bypasses logic. It goes right to your gut. So a baby's toe will tap to the right rhythm. So you can really rouse people. Like you can make a nation rise to their feet through music.
Mm-hmm.
And my father, who was a pretty conservative guy, so it was a backhanded compliment, but it was a compliment because he knew I was an artist. He said, "You know, those flower people really ended that Vietnam War." And so that's what I'm putting
Okay.
out there. That's my invitation or call is to the artist. Where are you?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you? This is the moment you were born for. There is a nation requesting your attendance at the front lines. And
Yes.
if you're going to go biblical on me, which is, Christianity's for sale right now, apparently, there's a great documentary out there called Bad Faith. If anyone
Yes.
wants to check out how we got here,
Mm-hmm.
right from Reagan. And I have a lot of good things to say about Reagan, but not about how they hijacked the evangelicals and
Mm-hmm.
how it came all the way through to MAGA. That's really a very, very sick propaganda machine, and that is not about Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but anyway, in the Bible, God sends the musicians out in battle first to sound the
Yes.
trumpets of victory.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is a fixed fight. The moral arc is long, but it does bend towards justice, and we will have a promised land here, and America is going to win. And
Mm-hmm.
so we need the Eminems and the Springsteens and
Mm-hmm.
the Jay-Z's. We need the big voices that represent all the genres to get
Mm-hmm.
out there and tell America exactly what's what.
Yeah.
And reestablish our national identity and take the microphone back and sit in our power
Mm-hmm.
because this is really absurd. You can't have a bunch of clowns running everything unless you give them the power.
Right.
So 340 million people take back their power. Believe me, that works. That's how
Mm-hmm.
regimes have always fallen. It's always the people. So it's a
Yes.
great moment. This is a great moment to be alive. It's
Yeah.
just people didn't quite get it yet. They
Uh-huh.
will, they sure will when the healthcare stops and
Well, yeah.
there's more military in your town, like you were saying, when it hits home.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of smart, brave people
Mm-hmm.
that will not put up with this because this is
Mm-hmm.
not the American spirit.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
I have I want to touch on this personal question before we go and before we go back to the art part.
Yeah.
Uh, and that is that, so when you said what happened to my family? How did I
Yeah.
lose my siblings? How
Yeah.
did what is their collective reaction about you? Are you the black sheep at that point in
Yeah,
your
I mean, it's such
family?
a big family. There are a few black sheep, but it's very similar to the MAGA culture. They are not MAGA.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are Republican, but they're certainly not MAGA. But it's the othering, it's the we don't take responsibility, she's whatever, just fill in the blank. It's constant campaign smearing, it's constant lying while also asking me for help and trying to use me for connections and businesses. I mean, it's so horrible.
Huh.
Um, but it comes from the root of self-righteousness,
Mm-hmm.
of denial, of a fish not knowing it's wet, like you said in the little bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Because, in the Potomac, Maryland Congressional Country Club or the Locust Valley Creek Club Piping Rock World, everyone looks so nice. Everyone's so nice in their little whale belts, in their
Mm-hmm.
pink pants, and all the anorexic, nice blonde wives, and all the pretty kids that go to their little church with no spirit, and everyone's going to private school, and they're doing charity. Everyone's so nice, and they're smiling, and they'll leave you for dead. It is absolutely ruthless. I actually have a term for it. I call it a whimsical violence because it's all so fun and everyone's great and going to Aspen and golfing and da 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 da, and these people will just stab you in the back in 2 seconds. So that is not how I was raised. That
Mm-hmm.
is not what I knew my brothers and sisters to be. We had very close relationships. They were very honest people. They were very good people. They were hysterically funny.
Mhm.
And somewhere along the way, as young adults, they got caught up in this and they forgot to laugh. They just
Um,
took themselves so dead seriously, and it was all about money and looking good, and they look great, and they've got tons of money, but they're nowhere to be found. And that is the noxious, false American dream that is in the air that
mhm,
has been sold to the American people, and it is a ruse. It is not the American dream. It is not. And there's nothing glorious in that. These people have very empty, sad lives.
mhm.
So I want to shift a nation's attention to what the American dream could be, which is love,
Yes. Yeah.
which is glory, which is inclusivity. To be the first safe space where people have freedom of speech, freedom
Yeah.
of religion.
Mhm,
This is a profound joy.
mhm,
That's why immigrants come from everywhere to be here. It
right.
is not so they can go golf at the Creek Club.
Mhm,
It is not.
mhm,
It is not so you can have a Range Rover.
right.
So we got to untwist that. And only the poetry can do that for the people. It has to be the great poets and musicians of the land.
Mhm,
You got to pull the splendor up from the roots of the history and the land and the people. And
mhm,
only art can do that.
mhm.
Politics certainly isn't going to do it.
Right. Right.
And even education's going to fall short.
Yeah. And music, if you go back through the last 100 years, just the last 100 years of music, you look at R&B and jazz and uh,
Yes.
all the genres along the way, and Vietnam, perfect example. Credence was the marching song of a generation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so many songs. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like
Uh-huh.
it's just time. It's just time
Yeah.
for the new generation of artists to save the
Right.
soul of America. And I
Right.
I think that it's a great moment because the ugliness, the underbelly, the rot,
Mhm.
R-O-T, rot that Langston Hughes talks about in his great poem Make America America Again is now visible. You can't get rid of what you can't see. A friend of mine said that, and that's the truth. So you can see it in plain sight now.
Yes.
So it can finally wither and die. This is a spirit that has to be extinguished. This is how
Mhm.
the conquistadors justified genocide. This has been since the beginning, and it has got to go if America is ever going to stand on 2 feet on a firm foundation and really go forward.
Mhm.
Really do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a vision, the people perish. And I love that you are holding that vision so strongly and so boldly.
Because I
Uh,
lost everything for it. Walking away from my family could have killed me. It was so painful.
yeah.
Really, it was like 10 years of grieving.
Yep.
So I was deeply interested in what the heck just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it. I made it to the other side. And the other side is the promised land. It
Yeah.
is a land of glory. It's so great.
Yes.
You really get it. You're like, wow, life is but a vapor. I only have a short time here. I can be part of the greatest story in human history.
Yeah.
Let's go. America is a constant living invitation. And none of it was noble. This all happened to me. So I was dragged on a school trip as a teacher
Mm-hmm.
to the American Revolution Museum in Philadelphia, and it
Mm-hmm.
was like brand new. Oh, I was so annoyed to have to go. And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. First of all, the way they do the exhibit's very cool. It's sort of set up like IKEA. You have to go through the whole thing.
Right.
Get to the end. I'm going to ruin it now because I don't think they still have the same exhibit. You realize you're in George Washington's war tent. And they give an incredibly moving monologue about how he left his cushy, rich life to go fight with
Mm-hmm.
his friends,
Mm-hmm.
with his brothers,
Mm-hmm.
with his men. And it really brings you to tears because as you're walking through the exhibit, like IKEA, they have TV monitors along the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And all it says in ticker tape is the revolution isn't over. The revolution isn't over. the revolution isn't over. And so you think about it the whole way through, you walk the exhibit, like, why do they keep saying this? And then in the monologue at the very end, they say to the audience, the revolution isn't over. It's up to us to finish this thing.
Ooh,
Oh, is right. Woo! It still gives me chills.
right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that's the moment we're in.
Mm-hmm.
How cool. How
Yeah.
great to be part of the founder's story, to be the other bookend. We did it on our watch. We didn't let the thing die, I mean, great stuff.
Well, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's just like recovery. Once you see what addiction is and how you play those games, you can still go try and get that fix again, but it's not ever going to be the same for you.
Yes. And I worked in a therapeutic school where we worked
Uh-huh.
with kids struggling with addiction.
Mhm.
And one of the things I always talked about was the gift of desperation.
Uh-huh.
So that's like when you hit rock bottom, and that's
Yeah.
where America is. You
Yeah.
can have a choice. It's either over
Right.
or we're gonna save it and we're gonna win.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like game time.
All right. All right. And so how are people responding to you? I see you're on social media, a lot of social media, and
Yes.
you are prolific,
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah.
should be a little bit because I'm a writer and teacher. So if I'm
Ah,
if
yeah.
I'm not that, I'm nothing. I would say right now it's a little overwhelming, right? We're working on structuring how
Mhm,
to organize all of the attention we're getting
mhm,
because I can promise you what makes me hopeful is the hundreds of people that contact me in a week
mhm.
asking me, what can we do?
Yeah.
So America's waking up and they're ready.
Yeah.
And part of my job, as I see it, is to give them an answer. This is what you can do. So
Hmm.
we're making a film, a
Okay.
televised concert that will really be the people's movement.
Hmm.
And then we're creating a nonprofit and an app to bring people's attention to where we'll have active citizenship suggestions. We'll be supporting veterans, helping to heal the indigenous community, partnering with other organizations about people that have lived through the legacy of enslavement and what they've carried, the trauma they've carried through the
Hmm.
generations, etc. I'm certified in Pollyanna racial literacy curriculum, so that's been part of my training. I went to Harvard for 2 years about diversity and cultural diversity and differentiating curriculum. So education is a piece of it. We want to educate people. And I've been really surprised by how many very high level government people have reached out to me.
Hmm.
And that's been shocking because I market myself as this flake artist because it's just more comfortable. You can always say the hard thing in art,
Hmm.
but when you start talking to people that are at the highest levels of the United States government, it gets very real.
Hmm.
So I did not expect that.
Yeah.
And that has turned into a conversation with another friend of mine who's one of the Silicon Valley legends for technology.
Hmm.
And so we're creating technology that will help empower the people. And
Hmm.
so that's very real on the groundwork that I did not necessarily expect. I always knew we'd have some technology, but not at the level that we
Hmm.
have now. So we've really actually now created a people's movement where we're going to equip people with the technology and media to have their voice. And I work with another woman, Andrea Miller, I'll give her a shout out from Common Ground. And
Uh-huh.
she's really well known for teaching how to be an effective lobbyist and teaching civics for lobbyists. And she also gets the black vote out. That's her language, not mine.
Hmm.
And so we're able to educate people to make real changes in Congress.
Hmm.
So we're doing the what I call the real things, the
Yeah.
boots on the ground things that will make the change. And then where I spend most of my time is in the ethos of
Hmm.
creating the new narrative.
Hmm.
And it's all so we can have a clear, concrete national identity.
I love
And
that.
that's what I believe has been missing. Just to say the last thing,
Hmm.
we don't know we're a people yet. We're so young,
Yeah.
but we are a people.
Hmm.
And it is our, again, job, but also great invitation and opportunity to define what that means. So to be French, you have this incredible culture, cuisine, style, architecture, history.
Yes.
China, 5,000 years of history. What does
Mhm.
America have? Right now, all we have is an idea. It happens to be one of the greatest to ever hit the earth. So
Mhm.
if we can create a national identity around that idea, I think we have a future to still be the greatest nation on
I
earth.
so I would my parting question is always, resilience, reimagine, what does that look like? But you just answered that in spades. So good. My question now is, I work with a lot of women with the education, the DEI experience, the time in the trenches, all of it, who 20, 25 years later and now are exhausted, burnout, you know, we thought we had this solved and look, we're
Yes,
regressing or whatever that is.
yes,
And I can't imagine that you got to this resilient place of visionary for this movement without having gone through a valley
yes,
of despair.
yes, yes, yes. So don't get weary in well doing. And
Yeah.
what I would suggest, the way I see it, is these are the death throes of something that's dying. We did have it figured out, and we were on the right track, and they couldn't handle it and didn't
Yeah.
like it. They all got together, all 30% of them, and said, "Get
Yes.
back in your place, boy."
Yeah.
But because it's over. These
Yeah.
are death throes. This is actually a good sign. This is
Uh,
when you know that they're so desperate and pathetic, they're going down.
right. So, in your deconstruction from all of your previous beliefs and thinking and what families are or should be, was there a pivotal moment that turned you back to the bright side, or did it just evolve for you? And was there a moment in time when you went, "Oh, now I get it"?
Yes, and I hesitate to answer because, like I said, Christianity is on sale right now and it's being
Mhm.
propagandized, but it just happened to be my story
Yeah.
that I met this guy, Dr. Palmer. He was in his 80s.
Uh-huh.
He happened to be a therapist at a place for people with very severe disabilities.
Mhm.
And he was retired and he was a spiritual advisor for the Catholic Church of all things. And I was born Catholic, but my father's family was Jewish, so I had an interesting background. But he asked me basically if I knew Christ, and I was pretty secular about the whole thing, a little annoyed after 12 years of Catholic school. I better know Christ. So I said, I don't know. How do you know? And he's like, I don't know. You ever read the Bible? Not really. I mean, I've read it when I had to read it. I've been in church my whole life. I don't know. So I was sort of impossible with this issue. And he sent me to this couple that did missionary work
Mhm.
in Uganda and Australia and some other places. And they were very sincere people in what they did. And they asked me the same question. And I said, I was sort of losing my patience with it. I said, I don't know. I don't know how you know if you know Christ. I don't know. And they said, well, you could pray this prayer. And they gave me a little prayer to pray. And I left that mission. I drove my car out, and I know it sounds crazy, but I was just hit with a spiritual experience right there in the car by myself with the
Mhm.
knowledge of heaven and earth. I
Mhm.
just knew in that moment God was real. And there was such a euphoric feeling that came with that, and it has never left me. It's 10
Mhm.
years now.
Mhm.
So I have really hard days. People are very vicious towards me, as you can imagine, because I'm speaking my, truth and using my mouth. I'm a single gal working several jobs and launching companies, just trying to make it by. I'm living in this weary world. So it's not like every day is a picnic, but I have a true north that has been inside of me since that moment that will not leave me.
Mhm.
And it gives me like a holy boldness power. Um, I didn't understand what it was. It took me many years I tried out so many different churches,
Yeah.
so many different spiritual advisors. I've read all different kinds of Bibles. I watch people on TV, but I have to say, I have come to understand what happened to me. And I have come to know there is a God and there is a heaven. And so, just like in Martin Luther King's last speech, he said, I'm not worried about any man because mine eyes have seen the glory of the Lord. And I know that does sound crazy to people that have not had that experience, but it's so true that I'm willing to take on the United States government.
Yes.
You got to either be crazy
Yep.
or you got to be emboldened by something bigger than you.
Yep.
And I live a very peaceful, grace-filled life with my four dogs, and I had a hummingbird garden this summer, and I bake on the weekends. Like, I'm all about just chilling. But there is a holy boldness in me that is committed to justice in a way that I am not noble enough to explain.
Mhm.
It is absolutely a spiritual thing.
Mhm. Mhm. We are the same.
Ah,
And I've always said I can do anything if I know God's in it. And
there
if
you
he's
go.
not in it, I don't want any part of it anyway.
That's even a better answer.
Yeah.
That's how I,
And I trust my guidance. And it's why I don't script art things like this, because all I have to do in
yeah.
this world is show up.
Yes, that's
And the
biblical.
rest will take care of itself. And what people think of me is none of my business. And so
That,
no sweat.
that's it. And before I got on, I said the quick prayer.
Yep.
It's all you because that's what it says right there in the Bible that just show up, the Holy Spirit will give you
Yep.
the words. Because
Yep.
it really is none of my business because I know what a sinner I am. I know what a mess I
Mhm.
am. I know what my human failings that with my best efforts I really create either a mess or mediocrity. It's just nothing worth even discussing. But with him,
Mhm.
anything's possible because God, he qualifies the called. He doesn't call the
Mhm.
qualified.
Yeah.
And David only had a rock to take down Goliath. So my only business is thank you, God. Thank you for my dogs. Thank you
Mhm.
for my house. Thank you for my health. And I know I get to see you one day, God willing. That's my business. Everything else is him.
Mhm.
If anyone sees anything they like about me, it's
Mhm.
him.
Yep. Yep. Oh, everything you just said, I could roll from that right into 12 step support, 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 support.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the 12
It,
steps is a great example.
it
What was it?
is.
Bill and Bob, they
Mhm.
find the Oxford group and they have these steps.
Yep.
It's rooted in the same Christian
It
things
is.
I'm talking about. It works.
Yep.
Up until AA, nothing worked.
Yeah.
You can't tell me miracles don't exist. You
Right.
can't tell me that. There are millions of people that are living great, healthy lives because of the steps.
Right.
It's a spiritual answer. I
Right.
mean, if you need facts, I don't know what's better than AA.
Mhm. Mhm. And the spiritual experience, anybody who's had that, no matter what avenue it got delivered, can pinpoint not only the exact time and space in which it happened, but those feelings are as real now
Yes, the tears come
as
when
they were in that moment.
there you go. I know it. I know it.
And
And
it fuels whatever it is that we're supposed to do next. And so when the big book says knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out, that makes my prayer life really short and my listening a lot bigger.
there you go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And
Not about me.
I applaud tears because, in the glory of God, don't we all just fall into a puddle of tears?
Mhm.
Like what are we but, these
Right?
creations. Um,
Yeah.
yes, and Bill and I think it was Bill that said this is but a beginning, the 12 steps.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel that way about religions too. It's but a
Nice.
beginning. And the last thing
Mhm.
I'll say, just because we're talking about it, because it's so important with what MAG has done, unfortunately, is God gave us free will
Yep.
so we could choose Him so it could be real love. If He made us puppets of Him, it's not real love. If He forced us or coerced us, we could never feel love. So the
Mhm.
freedom to choose Him is
Mhm.
the most Christian thing you can do.
Yes.
So, a nation that's trying to shame people into Christianity or bully them into Christianity or sell them is
Mhm.
one hypocritical mess.
Mhm.
So, even the founders who were on fire for Christ, is in their own words, knew you had to have a separation of church and state.
Yeah.
So, even though I'm telling you a spiritual experience is the most important thing that ever happened to me, and I'm a Christian before I'm an American, I just am because it's what saved me.
Right.
Um, I understand you have to have the free will to choose,
Yep.
or you're not a Christian anything, nation, religion.
Right.
The whole thing is such a lie. And that's what the enemy does
Mhm.
come to do, kill, destroy, and steal. And he's the father of liars. And
Right.
so let's bring on the light and truth.
Mhm.
You know, God's on the throne.
Mhm.
This is
Yeah.
a fixed fight.
And it has nothing to do with your performance.
Nothing to do. You cannot earn your way there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's by his grace.
Yeah.
And that's another great thing about the steps. It's surrender.
Mhm.
It's such
Mhm.
a honest, reality-based way to live life.
Right.
So
Right.
again, whether you're 12 steps, you're a Christian, or you're another religion that I'm always open to. I was a Buddhist for a while. I was a yoga
Uh-huh.
teacher. Someone called me a spiritual athlete once because I've
Uh-huh.
always been looking.
Yep.
Whatever it is, if you know it's not you,
Mhm.
it's a good start.
Uh-huh. Let's start there.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the people in power think it is them.
Yeah.
They think they've cornered the market on Christ, power, you
Well,
know,
because they're marketing and manipulating.
yeah, manipulation. This is mass manipulation.
Yeah.
And I even want to help the fools who elected him
Mhm.
understand because the betrayal is so real.
Oh man.
They don't know it yet, but what happened to them is
Mhm.
really pretty awful.
Mhm.
Even if their hearts are filled with hate,
Right.
they were
Right.
manipulated.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we all know we've all had experience of being betrayed and manipulated. And whether it was in a family of origin or with a lover or somewhere along the line, and the deep sorrow and pain and resentment that that brings, all the emotional baggage, and the way it affects your life moving forward when it comes to trust. The fair thing to say about all of this is trust is broken. And what I like about your vision is, but that wasn't the design, that was the deficiency.
Mhm.
So, so how do we, what can we use? And what I do with women is say, you don't all have to be a movie maker. You don't have to be a podcast host. You don't have to have a degree. You can start at your dinner table over equity conversations with your school age children.
Which is what Christ did. Jesus did not have
Yeah.
a powerful position. He helped the next person and the next
Yep.
person and the next person, just
Hmm.
like AA.
Hmm.
Next person and the next person. It's heart to heart.
One starfish at a time.
I
Yeah.
love that story. It matters to this
Yeah.
one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And
you matter. Awfully glad you're in the world this
ah,
season.
again, nothing noble. It's just I wasn't strong enough to be a jerk. I would have gone that way. I would have tried to be anorexic, gorgeous,
Uh,
rich,
Fit the
entitled,
mold.
elitist, because it feels good. You feel invulnerable. You feel immortal. You don't even know you're going to die one day. I mean, you're just above it all. But I
Mhm.
was too delicate. I was too sensitive. So I was allergic to it and I couldn't do it.
Mhm.
There was something else put in me, in my character, that said, no, there's another way. And when I heard Martin Luther King Jr. speak, I said, well, that way, what's that way?
Yeah.
And that happened in high school. So
Mhm.
it was early on that I decided I'm going to go that way. I don't want your country club
Mhm.
viciousness with a smile. I don't want that. That's too cold. That's
Yeah.
too duplicitous. Something wrong with that.
Mhm.
And it only took me, what, 40 years to get there, but I did get there. So if I could get
So
there,
did Moses.
right, right.
Okay.
40 years in the desert. But if I could get there, anybody can get there.
Mhm. Mhm. So where do people find you when they want to say, how can I help? What can I do? What's your next move?
So
Where do
the
people find
website
you?
is somewhereiread.com. And that is right from Martin Luther King's speech, where he says, somewhere I read about the freedom in this nation. You know, he's
Ah.
differentiating us from other nations back to the Constitution, Gettysburg Address, Declaration of Independence. So somewhereiread.com is where anybody can come and send us an email.
Mhm.
And soon we'll have other websites out there, and you won't be able to miss us.
Wonderful. I can't wait to share that. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time today. It's been
Thank you, Warrior
great.
Kim. Thank you.